All right, so here are three things. We talked about this off camera, but three things we think the U.S. needs to do to win against Paraguay, not just get a draw or have a good game, but to actually win. I'm going to name the three things. Then, Tones, I'm going to come to you first because I think the first one's really up your wheelhouse. So the number one is managing the moment. Obviously, hosting a World Cup at home is a big deal. So that first game is going to be pretty important. Then it's managing the game. So the moment's different than the game. And then the next one is pick the right players. And do we risk Chris Richards? And we'll get into that in a second. But I want to come to you, Tones, first on managing the moment and really lean on your experience of 1994 and playing against Switzerland in that first game in our home World Cup back then.
Yeah, I mean that's. I think we nailed it with that one, right? There's something different about being at home, right? Different set of circumstances when it comes to media being at home. They've probably never seen any of this at home. Quite honestly, I don't know if you see this much media on a weekly basis when you're playing at the club level, right?
Yeah,
this is completely different. Home side, so you not only have your media, you got the Paraguay media, you got the world media coming around to know what, everyone wants to cover the host country, right? So it's completely different. New training facilities. We saw the great scenes where they got 5,000 people at a training facility yesterday. Every team had to do that in the World Cup, by the way. One day you had to commit to the fans. It's all different. All of this is different than the experiences you've had before. But what you should feel is comfortable, being at home, right? And they've played at SoFi Stadium, although the memories at SoFi Stadium are great, right, from that Nations League. But they're familiar with the grass. They're familiar with the stadium, how you get into the place. So, yeah, you just have to put it all in sort of the right mindset. There'll be more anticipation prior to the game because it is at home. I just saw an article just before we came on. It was in GQ magazine where Christian said it'll be like another game. Hopefully for him, it's like another game. But I just don't think it will be.
I think what's interesting is that one of the strong arguments, and I agree with this ultimately, of our players playing over in Europe and playing for big clubs is that they're in these types of environments all the time. So when this moment comes, it's just easier to handle and to stay calm, right, Chuck? I mean, when you got to play in the big games, then the next time you played in a big game, you walked into that with a little bit more confidence. And even if you couldn't hear people next to you because it was so loud, you could still solve problems based on your experiences from before. And so I wonder how easy you think it's going to be for our players to block out the noise, even though there's going to be so much hoopla around this first game in particular.
Well, it's funny because I would say if you're playing in a World Cup qualifier against Mexico at Azteca Stadium, there isn't an environment that could possibly intimidate you any more than that. That's as loud as it gets. I could not imagine playing in an atmosphere that has more animosity and more pressure that you would feel from the fan base outside of the altitude, the heat, and objects being thrown at you. So, I go back to the last World Cup qualifier that these guys got a chance to play at Azteca, and it was maybe 60, 70% full. And just commentating, it didn't even give you the real feeling that you typically would get from Azteca. So a little disappointing, but needless to say, these guys all got to play in a World Cup already, most of them. So they understand the pressure. They understand the responsibility and how quick the game can turn. For Wales, largely unimpressed by what Wales were able to do in that game. We controlled most of it, didn't really create enough chances, but got our big goal against with Timothy Weah. And next thing you know, we give up a penalty. Walker Zimmerman and Gareth Bale puts it home. And you go from 3 points to start the tournament to conceding, and now you take just a point, right? Then a point away from England. That was the big game where the underdogs, massive underdogs, no one gave the U.S. a chance. They surprised us. They played better than England, but ultimately 0-0. And then the last game against Iran, that felt more about guts. And, Christian put his body on the line, took an unbelievable knock to just in the chance opportunity that he could score, which he did. Phenomenal. But he was bruised up. And I think when you're taking that into the knockout round against the Netherlands, where they outcoached you because they said, hey, we're going to throw a little wrinkle at them and let them have possession. We're going to hit them on the counter. And both goals, they used Dumfries. They were able to stretch us and then play that cutback ball at the top of the box. So all in all, I think all of these moments have helped these guys understand the pressure that they're going to hear, the noise, the atmosphere. None of this should intimidate. If anything, it should motivate them. I don't anticipate any of our guys going, because we've played with those guys where all of a sudden they get stiff, they get tight, they don't want to take touches, they try and rush, they play the safe pass. Now you got to embrace it and just go.
All right, great. Well, with that out of the way, that's not an issue anymore. I agree with you all the points.
Like I was in the locker room talking to the guys already.
No problem. But I do agree with you about Azteca that I think Mexico has a huge advantage because that stadium is going to be insane.
People don't know. People don't know until you get there. Oh boy,
South Africa is about to find out in this first one. All right, so let's get into managing the game, and I'll go first.
You won't see it, Jimmy. You won't see it.
Well,
you'll be on a flight.
That's true. I won't see it. Thanks for reminding me, Big Tones. I'll have to watch it on a little tiny screen or find out later. But I'll get to watch the other ones. So let's get into managing the game. That's the moment. Here's the game. I mean, for me, I'll kind of give two general overviews on both sides of the ball. Tempo and attack, right? Tempo really dictates how we want to move, how we want to support each other. Can we play quick when it's on? Can we slow it down when it makes sense to do so? And then can we build those attacks? We have some talented players. They showed it in the last two games in particular. So can we control the tempo and dictate the rhythm of what's happening? And that happens on both sides of the ball. Can we still – that the other side of it be compactness? If we lose the ball, can we make sure we're working together to hunt and win it back in good areas? So that can lead to us driving the game once overall. I think under those two umbrellas, we can get into more the minutia and details of how we want to play. But ultimately, these are the two areas that I think you can't get away from when you're kind of building how you want to play on both sides of the ball. Tones, I don't know if you want to add to anything from that from a defensive standpoint or from a goalkeeper standpoint, because we know that a goalkeeper is going to have to make a few saves for us to have a chance in any of these games. Yeah,
no doubt. I just think just overall, like you nailed a bunch of really good points. I still think in all of this stuff, we're getting into, we've seen what Mauricio Pochettino wants this team to look like. We've seen really good moments, even in the Belgium game, yes, and even in the Portugal game, yes, for periods of time. I think what we need to do is sustain that level for extended periods. And I still go back to what I said after the last match. We got to cut down on mistakes, right? It's not anymore a matter of how do we want to play, what do we want it to look like? Because I think we have a pretty good idea. But again, you're playing at the highest level right now. It's all things that these guys know. Those silly mistakes have to be cut out here. So hopefully we got a couple of those out of the way, and we figure out a couple of more options, because I still the one thing I do worry about is that low block that we're talking about with Paraguay.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just been our Achilles heel, Jimmy, for a little while.
No, it has, and I'm kind of curious as to the ideas we have. And I'm kind of curious if Paraguay is going to actually kind of flip the script and maybe come at us, but we'll have to wait and see on Friday. One more thing I would add to that: tempo on the attack, compactness in defense is the details, right? And I think that falls into set pieces, doing your job, doing the dark arts, do whatever you can to make sure they can't score. And then obviously doing everything we can to make sure that we can hit the back of the net. Chuck, I'm going to send this next one over to you though, picking the right players. Do you risk Chris Richards? We had all 26 players. They're training today. That's the first time that's happened in camp. And then it's not only picking the right players, but putting them in the right spots and playing them in the formation. I think the formation looks set. He used it for both games. So then it's a matter of, is Tillman next to Adams? Is McKinney next to Adams? Who's our number one? Is it Freeze? Is it Turner? Do you have Miles Robinson, Mark McKenzie? I mean, there's a couple pieces here or questions that I have that still need answers.
And Jimmy and Tones, we talk about this all the time. Sometimes it's not the best players. It's the right group, the right mix. And it's the right tactics when we're looking at Paraguay, when we're looking at Australia, we're looking at Turkey. Each team gives you a different threat, and they give you a different proposition. When I look at Paraguay, I just watched the game over. We score early, right? Similar to what Germany did to us in this last friendly. They came back 5 minutes, 6 minutes later, and they score against us through the run of play on the left side. They played in behind Scally. Now, Des was pushed up high, almost like a right winger, and Scally was late to react. In behind, down the left channel, cross, goal. And the forward scored. He beat our center backs to the near post. I'm thinking to myself, what's going on? But the player that to me stood out the most for us in is almost the player that's going to disrupt the Paraguay the most is Serginho Dest. And I'll give you the reason why. In watching how Paraguay played, super narrow, super compact, tough to break down, right? But when you have somebody wide to create width and you're playing with tempo, we love talking about that, Jimmy, quick tempo, to switch to a player who is creating that width, but also a little bit isolated, has some time to run at that Paraguay back line. When he's on the dribble and beats that player, that initial player that comes out, now all of a sudden you're saying, hey, they have to start to switch and have to move, which then creates space. So he's almost like a havoc creator in that process. Gio Reyna, he's not any force in the air. He's not someone that you fear on crosses. He scores the first goal with the header. And then you just feel that, okay, there's a lot of space at the top of the box. I know in that game, Roldan started. So that's a position for Weston McKennie or Tillman, whoever's at the top of the box to get that opportunity as well to finish off of crosses. So I think Serginho Dest is going to be have a massive say and can have a massive impact in this game if used properly, and he obviously takes advantage of that.
I think Dest actually becomes more dangerous when Freeman's on the field too, because Scally's going to sit a little bit more, but with Freeman going, that opens up potentially more space for Dest, or he can pick his spots, I think, in a different way. It makes him more dynamic. All right, let's take a look at our projected 11 and see who we think. This is like best case scenario. So this is Chris Richards and the team. So we have Matt Freese in goal, Ream, Richards, and Freeman. Then you have Jedi on the left, Dest on the right. You have Adams and Tillman sitting as the 6s, McKennie and Pulisic as the 10s, top of the box, and then Balogun will be up top. It's going to be close to that. Do we have any other potential changes? We thought maybe McKennie could be off of Adams' shoulder. That's one. If Richards isn't available, I would lean more towards Mark McKenzie than Miles Robinson. I didn't think Miles painted himself in glory against Germany in particular. Anybody else? I think everything else looks pretty good.
Yeah, I guess there could be a question of McKennie and Tillman just rotating positions, but I think they're going to do that naturally in the game.
Yeah.
But outside of that, with Richards, I really, if Richards is available, I really can't see him going any other way than this right here.
Do you feel like
because he's not going to bench the captain, right? So Tim Ream
Tim Ream's going to play, especially
he's going to start. Yeah.
So Chuck, go really quick on this. Do you start Richards if he can't give you 90? Or do you feel like that area of the field, you need a guy that's going to play 90 the whole time in this particular game?
You can't start a center back that can't give you 90. An attacking player who can give you 60, a midfielder
it feels
who can give
different,
60,
right?
70.
It feels different.
A center back, you have to go with a guy who's going to be there consistently 90 minutes. You don't have to worry. Now, if he can say, hey, I can give you 90, the medical staff says, hey, you can give you 90, but you're aware that he's got an ankle knock and that could be a possibility, fine. But if you're telling me off the bat, hey, Chris Richards can only give you 60 today, then hell no, he's not starting.
Yeah.
You know how much a center back coming out of a team after you've been in a rhythm can throw everything. Jimmy, how many times have you played and all of a sudden a center back comes in or sub and everything goes to shit?
Well, rarely that they get sub, but when they do, yes, it does.
Right. The line, the understanding, you're not in rhythm. So the amount of time it takes to warm up, touches on the ball, it's not like you guys are the most gifted with the touch on the ball. You need some warm-ups, you know what I'm saying?
I wasn't expecting taking a stray right here.
Hey, I'm
pumping up the center backs.
I'm just trying to help you guys out.
Sure.
But yeah, it just, if Richards is nowhere near 100%, let's say he's 80. No, you're not starting him.
I know you want to save him and get him to full health for the next 2 games.
But let me ask you something. I mean, is his first game back, whenever it is, say it's second game, does he have 90 in his legs?
Probably not. That's probably not.
I think so. Think about it. You're not losing that much
adrenaline, baby. It's a World Cup.
He played.
Well, he's not going to have adrenaline in the first game,
right?
That's true. No, that's what I mean. Yeah, he would.
Yeah,
he didn't. I don't think he's been out long enough to lose, the legs in that way. Yeah, like his base fitness is still going to be there. But if you're telling me form and touch, that could definitely be altered if you're not on the pitch for, let's say it's not even a month yet, maybe 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see.